until we achieve that goal.
I'm sorry to interrupt the honourable member. His time has expired.
Thank you, sir.
Speaker.
I call Te Rara Flavel.
Tēnā koe, Mr. Speaker, kia ora tātou e te whare. Tātou e wete nei tēnei pire nā te honore Tariana Tūri e whakatakoto ki mui o koutou warwaro. Kanui te mihi kia koutou e mihi mai ki aia. Me mihi ki aia ka tika. Nāna tēnei pire i kōkiri ki mui te aro o te rā o te kāwana nāhinara. Nā ko eke tēnei o ngā pire ki tōna taumata i tēnei wā. Nō reira mihi mai ki aia. I etahi wā, ka pātai a te pātai, hea te take o te noho tētahi rōpu paku pēnei te Pāti Māori roto te whare pāremata. Anei te pua waitanga o te kōrero. Ka tāia e ngā rōpu paku te kōkiri ngā take nui, mena kai te noho rātau hei hoa haere o te kāwanatanga. Maira kei te mihi ki aia, kei te mihi ki te painga o te noho i roto te whare pāremata, kei te mihi ki te rā, he rā whakahira a mō mātou o te Pāti Māori, ka motu te tikanga ia a mō te motu whānui tonu. Koia tētahi kaupapa, ko roa e kōkiri hia nei te Pāti Māori. Mai te rā tuatahi, e eke mātou ki roto i tēnei whare pāremata, koia tētahi kaupapa nui whakaharahara, ana koinei te pua waitanga i te rā nei. He rā noa pōpō mō ngā wetenga o roto i ngā komiti whaiti, engari tōna mutunga mai, ko aro mai, me ki te nui o te whare pāremata ki tēnei o ngā pire, ka mihi rā, ka mihi, ka mihi. Mr. Speaker, it's a good day to be a Māori Party member when all of the things come together, the stars align, and you happen to get a nice, sharp, concise, well thought out, common sense bill that's going to take the country forward. And I made all of those words up just by myself. Mr. Speaker, I don't think there's too much to argue about in this bill as we really focus on looking after the well-being of the people of this land. And so we know that cigarettes are highly addictive, lethal, and they cannot be made any safer. He mea mauheri te ngākau i te wairua, i te ngākau i te tinana o te tangata. Koinei te mate, pēnei tā te honore tauhenare kōrero nei. It's something that obviously grabs you, and you can be ungrabbed as he was ungrabbed, and then it grabs you again. And that's one of the unfortunate things about it. But this is one of the things that we of the Māori Party call a social hazard, and it's something that we want to address clearly from day one when we arrived in the Parliament of this land. It's an epidemic, and unfortunately sometimes we don't always have control over it. Sir, I can say that there's been many approaches and many ways that the Parliament of this land have attempted to deal with this issue, through from disease warnings on tobacco packaging, through to bans in the working place, as others have spoken about this afternoon, to subsidising medicinal nicotine, but it hasn't sort of made too much of an effect. And I, for one, have been to tangi after tangi after tangi, in particular of women, Māori women, who have suffered from cancer, and there's nothing worse than seeing the children that are left behind because of the effects of cancer on not only just that person that's passed away, but the families and the children and the partners. As I say, the consequences of this are pretty grim. And lung cancer mortality rate for Māori is 3 times that of non-Māori, and we have much to think about as we take this bill forward. It is about life and death, and we're at a critical point, I think, in our history where we've never been before, and seen the levels of support, I think, from both sides of the House, both from both politicians as well, and from the public, to take some serious look at tobacco control measures. As I say, Mr. Speaker, I'm really proud of the outstanding leadership and the dedication that the Honourable Tariana Tūri has shown in progressing this bill, and it is acknowledged that some of the work was done through the Māori Affairs Select Committee as well, and there are members of the House that were on that committee that really did push this issue out in the public arena. In terms of the Honourable Tariana Tūri, she has been the front of this for the last couple of years, certainly, and not that I should necessarily talk behind her back, but she's one that doesn't tolerate inertia too much. She wants some action, and I know that she was pretty disappointed, unfortunately, that we couldn't see the legislation all the way through the legislative process today. But we get it that it has to happen like that, but we must try to seize the moment, sir, to meet the vision of having a smoke-free Aotearoa by 2025. But it's also about the leadership that each of the MPs in the Parliament of our land have in exercising and voting on this particular issue. supporting the raising in the tax as a catalyst for change. Mr. Speaker, the great thing that we know about the rise in the tobacco excise tax that was increased and it was introduced in April 2010 and in January 2011 and then again in January 2012 is that putting up the tax not only prevents young people from smoking, but it also encourages existing smokers to quit. And I hope that the Honourable Tauhenare will follow through on that particular issue as well. It's particularly pleasing, sir, to read through the ASH Year 10 study to see that Māori students had the biggest decline in daily smoking compared to other ethnicities, with a change from 14.1% in 2010 to 10.3% in 2011. And as that points out, it's all about changing attitudes, creating an environment which enables smokers basically to quit. Mr. Speaker, the research from the Otago University study of 1,300 smokers has reported that almost 70% of Māori who smoke and 74% of Pacifica people who smoke actually supported tighter regulation of the tobacco industry. The study also showed that 66% of the Māori smokers and 78% of the Pacifica participants thought that the government should do more to tackle the harms of smoking. Sir, I've heard the arguments, all of the arguments that tobacco tax increases can induce financial hardship and resulting in ill health in families. But I'd have to say that on balance, sir, increasing tobacco tax actually benefits poor families far more because, as we all know, the harms from smoking are far greater than harms from tobacco tax, that they're far greater than the harms that tobacco tax will ever be. So the ill health and premature loss of life caused by smoking, particularly for Māori, as I say, is a real disgrace. But it is also a perfect opportunity right now to put in place an immediate strategy to eliminate the social hazard which has done so much to hinder economic and human growth in Aotearoa. And as other members have said, it costs literally millions of dollars in healthcare. I wanted to commend again the Honourable Tariana Turia for looking at this issue in a wider context as we take on this issue with all of the other initiatives that we have in train. For example, the plain packaging, tobacco not being displayed in the shops from July of this year, the issue about making cars smoke-free, and all the other ideas to advance the tobacco control strategy to be smoke-free, as I say, by 2025. So, although the tax increases are effective, we know that tobacco tax alone won't do it by itself. We need the support of those who are struggling to quit. And so, with that in mind, I'm really proud of the budget that we've just currently debating, and the Māori Party being able to negotiate through some gains across the board, but in particular the $20 million for health promotion initiatives, and which are basically about supporting positive and healthy lifestyles and to free people of cigarette smoking. It can relate to a wide range of things, and I'm hoping it's talking about sport, recreation, creating incentive to smoke, to quit smoking, healthy homes, all of those sorts of initiatives. Finally, sir, I recognise that this is a huge challenge. Who would think that in another 15 or so, 16 years or so, that we would hopefully realise the dream of a smoke-free Aotearoa, and that would be a real, if we achieve that, it'll be a great day for this country. But it's going to take some leadership and it's going to take some action. So we saw last week the iwi Leaders Group taking a leadership role at the AFCO plants around the country. They were able to negotiate through the communication gap between the unions and that firm. And I'd hope, sir, that the iwi take up another leadership role with respect to this particular kaupapa. And I know that Dr. Peter Sharples through Ngāti Kahungunu is always guiding about their Ngāti Kahungunu tobacco use strategy, and that they've certainly looked at banning cigarette smoking on marae, in the whare, on waka, at the urupa, at the cemetery and so on. And so we'd hope that that rolls out throughout the country. Finally, sir, we want to invite all New Zealanders to pick up on the challenge to quit smoking, to support and encourage whānau members to give up, and to discourage our younger ones from ever starting. That would be the ultimate. Smoking has robbed us of too many of our treasures, We need to denormalise smoking, and we need to support our whānau to be smoke-free. And, sir, the Māori Party supports this bill absolutely.
I call Andrew Williams.
Te lauwhalawa, Mr.